Welcome back. The Malian authorities have actually responded to the statement of solidarity and support from the African Union towards the Malian cause. But ladies and gentlemen, this is a little bit of bittersweet because the Malians unequivocally they lauded the effort of the African Union to restore peace, tranquility, good diplomacy along the Sahel territory. But again, the Malian authorities did not fail to remind the African Union of the place of respect and sovereignty of the Malian people. Ladies and gentlemen, without no further ado, let us listen to what the Malian authority actually said in this video. Let's watch the video.
Regarding the situation in Mali, the African Union has finally broken its silence. It has just released a statement to remind the international community of the urgent need for action in the fight against terrorism in Mali. It also reaffirmed its solidarity with the government, the people of Mali, and the families of the victims. We will look at some excerpts from this statement with Silky Dambele. And on the sidelines of the International Defense and Security Exhibition, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, along with his colleague in charge of communication, held a press conference on the current situation, which is marked by a media campaign against our country. According to Minister Diop, the scenario planned by the terrorists and their sponsors could not be carried out. Let's listen to him now speaking to Bemba Sibi.
Mali wants to maintain a constructive engagement with the African Union. Moreover, we have noted that with the arrival of the new president of the African Union Commission and also the current chair of the African Union, the president of Angola, there is a new dynamic, a desire for a different kind of engagement with Mali, one that is not based on the issue of sanctions. Naturally, regarding the communiqué itself, I must say that we were somewhat surprised by certain aspects, certain expressions in this communiqué, which from our point of view, echo the narrative of terrorist groups and their foreign state sponsors, especially when they talk about a blockade. And you know, there is no blockade. There are certainly obstacles to the supply of petroleum products. There are disruptions, but there is no blockade. That a continental organization would choose to adopt and promote this kind of narrative or way of thinking naturally raises significant concerns for us, because we firmly believe that the African Union should have taken the necessary time to understand what is happening in Mali, to learn about the reality in Mali, and based on that, to see what the expectations of Malians are and what their possible needs might be. And in this particular context, there was also a very clear and explicit call made for urgent and immediate action in the country of Mali. We firmly believe that no action whatsoever can be considered, discussed, or undertaken in Mali without the full involvement of the Malian people, without the explicit consent and agreement of the Malian state, and without the Malian state itself formally requesting such action. It is essential that any steps taken are in accordance with the wishes and sovereignty of Mali and its government. I also think that this is something that is extremely important for us to keep in mind. Above all, this call for international action is all the more concerning because Mali has moved away from this kind of paradigm. The new paradigm promoted by the president of the transition, by the transitional authorities, as well as by the other presidents of the AES, Niger and Burkina, is to trust ourselves, to take responsibility for ourselves, and to ensure that the security of our countries rests first and foremost on the shoulders of our own people, on the shoulders of our leaders, and in particular, on the broad and dedicated shoulders of the defense and security forces of Mali. We are not reaching out to the so-called international community to come to our aid, especially since over the past 10 years, Mali in particular has tried an experiment with the presence of several thousand international forces who did not meet the expectations of Malians.
As for the minister in charge of communication, he reminded the African Union that from now on, no decision about Mali will be made without Mali. He is speaking to Bamba Sibi.
We find that the harsh reaction of the African Union falls far short of our expectations and is far from what is necessary to truly help resolve this issue. We expect the African Union to first come to Mali, to understand Mali's problems together with Malians, and to find solutions with Malians that will be implemented with Mali's agreement. Any foreign involvement is unacceptable to us without the participation of our people and its political leadership. We also expect much greater firmness from the African Union regarding the repeated violations of Mali's integrity and national unity, in accordance with the principle of the inviolability of borders. We also expect much greater firmness from the African Union in response to the major terrorist offensives imposed on our people, as well as to the pernicious complicity of certain African Union member states, who sustain and foster terrorism for geopolitical purposes.
Regarding the situation in Mali,
You could see that the Malian authorities actually stated some very, very clear and obvious points out there. You know, the African Union, and they were able to correct one thing, that there was no energy blockade. Okay, you see, I love the way the Malians actually addressed this in a very educated fashion, in a very methodic fashion. They were able to even not only educate the African Union, but educate the international community on its own, you know, and they talked about the African Union seeking the consent of the Malian people, sending delegations to Mali to find out the real-time situation, right? You have to know the situational reports before you go out there and make some very, very controversial statement, right? We've actually spoken about it on this platform that the African Union should have seek the opinion of the Malian authorities, at least know what the situation is, understand the plight of the people, and how you can be relevant. And it's at this point that the African Union could have been able to give a comprehensive report, and this is how they would have been able to throw their weight properly. You don't just throw weight. It has to be an educated shift of your weight, being an association that brings together the Eastern African states. But ladies and gentlemen, you know, the way the African Union actually spoke, we did not receive it the right way. But I love the way the Malian authorities equally spoke. You know, they closed the window, they closed the door. No, they closed the window, but they made sure that they left the door open. Do you get what I mean? They're actually telling the African Union, like, we respect what you do as a union. And we love the fact that you want to see an improvement in the situation of the Malian people, even though the Malian people are not asking, right? But they are still trying to remind the African Union, don't forget that there are ways through which diplomatic interventions have been done. There are methodologies, there are steps. You know, don't just beat the gun, okay? So, what do you all think about the statement of the Malian authorities? How do you perceive it? You can drop your opinion in the comment section below. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's this propaganda that went viral, so viral, okay, that the JNIM jihadists actually took over the Lulouni region, okay? Lulouni is on the eastern flank of Mali, very, very close to the neighboring countries, okay? So, of Burkina Faso and all of that. So there are statements that even, you know, they were making a lot of propaganda with this video. Now, the JNIM actually posted some videos on social media that they invaded Lulouni, and they created a lot of uprising with this video. Now, we cannot tell if this was Lulouni in the first place, but okay, let's say it's Lulouni, right? They made a video, posted around somewhere. Anybody could have done this. Yeah, I could go to any highway and hold a rifle, cars are driving. I spend maybe about 20 minutes and I walk away. Nobody is ever going to know. But the people making the video would have sent out. That's how propaganda work, right? I can just grab an AK-47, cover my face, stay on the high road. As long as there are no security forces with the right combat capabilities approaching at the time, I can create a lot of controversy. Okay, so they said they actually invaded a community, and through their sources, they propagated the information. Now, what they did not expect was a very, very quick response for the Malian armed forces. Ladies and gentlemen, immediately this information got to the Malian army, they deployed. The Malian armed forces came in with multiple capabilities. I'm talking about the VN-22 vehicles, the MRAPs. A lot of forces were dispatched. Now, because the JNIM actually knew that the Malian armed forces were not going to take this very lightly, that they were going to respond with a lot of ferocity, they booby-trapped the road. And unfortunately, in this operation, while the Malians were approaching, they lost, I think, 2 combat vehicles, MRAPs. 2 MRAPs were lost in the process through the improvised explosive device. But the Malians went ahead. They didn't stop. They made sure they got into the city of Lulouni. And immediately, the JNIM knew that the Malian army were about to enter the city of Lulouni. Guess what they did? They made another propaganda video saying, oh, we think we've spent enough time in Lulouni.
Wala balma assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alibi ani Jama'atun Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimina be ɲɔgɔn fɛ. Ni ay Lulouni sirabablenin kan. Ni ye Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ka dinɛ kɔrɔtabagaw. O cɛbaw ni ye olu bɔtɔ ye Lulouni kɔnɔ. U nalen kɔ donso nɔfɛ ni donso y'u senfa ka yɔrɔ to u ye. A mun kan ka kɛ ni Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ka jɛ ye. Ayiwa o kɛlen kɔfɛ ni ye o cɛba ninnu ni ye olu le bɔtɔ ye ni Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ka jɛ ye ni Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ka se ye ni ne ye Jama'atun Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimina min bɛ haraka la Sikaso kɔnɔna na bi o ye nin jamakulu nin de ye i n'a fɔ aw ɲɛ b'a la cogoya mun na mada la n'an bɛna se ka jama nin bɛɛ yira aw la i n'a fɔ aw yɛrɛ ɲɛ b'u la cogoya mun na o bɛ ka tɛmɛ cogoya mun na o bɛ ka tɛmɛ o cogoya de la o bɛ ka tɛmɛ cogoya min na o bɛ ka tɛmɛ o cogoya de la ça fait des minutes et qui passent Jama'atun Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimina Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ka dinɛ dɛmɛ tɔn kelen min bɛ
less than 24 hours. Is that enough time? They said, we think we've spent enough time in Lulouni. Now we're about to leave. We don't have any business in Lulouni again. You can see their motorcycle leaving Lulouni. So that is the effect of an effective armed forces that is ready to combat terrorism. Mali is big, but the reach of the Malian army is very, very vast. So whatever the case may be, we do know one thing. Mali doesn't negotiate with these mercenaries. Mali doesn't give the mercenaries a breathing space. Everywhere the farmers enter, there is only one thing that has been guaranteed so far. Everybody disappear. So ladies and gentlemen, we also have another video that we've actually posted on our Telegram channel. The Malians somewhere in the Malian territory, the north of Mali. You heard that 243 jihadists surrendered to the Malian armed forces. So the ones that didn't surrender, if you remember, we talked about it, that some of them didn't want to surrender, they tried to fight. They were neutralized. And we've posted it on the platform. You could actually see the Malian armed forces actually, after they just piled them up, and like I said, the prisons are filled up. If you know that you are interested in getting yourself neutralized so bad, man, you know where you are going to get this work. So let's move forward, right? So that is about what happened? So the city of Lulouni is under the Malian control. Very well, there's peace, there's tranquility right now. And the Malians have further sent a containment battalion into Lulouni, just in case the JNIM wants to come back and poke the bear. They are going to get this work. I can guarantee you that. In Niger Republic, recently we heard that General Abdurrahman Chiani actually spoke about the situation of the uranium. Some Western country with some very, very terrible interests actually spoke about the uranium deal between Russia and Niger Republic. We're talking about one mine alone, and that is the Halit mine. And this Halit mine, it has now been nationalized completely by the Nigerian authorities. So they say they are looking for partners and all of that, but it has been nationalized. Now let's move forward from there. Do you remember that this nation, this neo-colonial nation, actually threatened that it could affect the security, and they also used another language, right, in the Sahel and all of that. So ladies and gentlemen, they did something. They sent their mercenary forces at night to blow up a Nigerian oil pipeline. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the video. Now, I intentionally cut off the point where the explosion took place because, YouTube will actually flag this video. But if you want to see the whole thing, you can go to our Telegram channel and you can actually see it. So when they make threats that it can affect the security architecture in the Sahel, these are the things they are talking about. These are the things. Remember that the security situation in the Nigerian territory right now is on a whole nother level. Niger Republic has actually shifted their security bar just beyond the normal level right now. So they wouldn't have been able to do this during the day. So, like urchins that they are, they went to look for, an oil pipeline. Possibly it might be the one that goes to Benin Republic and, maybe Togo, and they blew it up. So as we speak, the engineers have swung into action and they're in the, process of repairing the damaged or the sabotaged oil pipeline. So these people are cowards. Like you heard, they said, the Malian authorities said, instead of them to come out by themselves and, be bold with their confrontation, guess what? Maybe they don't want to do that because they know that, the security partners of Mali, they are more than ready to crush them beyond the normal limit. So let's move forward from there, right? So we have another information, right? So in the midst of everything that is going on, ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful aspect of it is that, Captain Ibrahim Traore actually talked about moving towards the industrial phase of production in Burkina Faso. He talked about the transfer of experience, transfer of technology, reverse engineering. And ladies and gentlemen, the Burkinabes are not waiting. The Burkinabes are not letting the smoke go down. The Malians have started making drones, just to tell you about that. In the BAMEX 2025, we actually saw a lot of Malian invention. And I felt like a lot of platforms have talked about it. So I felt like, okay, let me not just talk about it since a lot of people have talked about it. I know my perspective will be different, but I just felt like, okay, let me just let this rest. But ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you about the Burkinabes. This Burkinabe young scientific mind actually did this in his apartment. Ladies and gentlemen, let's watch this beautiful video.
Ceux qui veulent intégrer dans le groupe WhatsApp, c'est 6 000 francs par mois. Il y a mon numéro WhatsApp. Ne viens pas mettre dans un groupe WhatsApp. Donc, il y a tout le groupe ici. Il faut un groupe WhatsApp.
That is a young Burkinabe. Now imagine if this kid is sent to China or Russia or, Turkey. They are being sent to get more training. What do you think will happen if with little resources, they can actually do this. So given the right education, what do you think our people will be capable of doing? Ladies and gentlemen, you can drop your opinion in the comment section below. So let's go to the last information, right? US Congressman Riley Moore actually talked about the situation that has been escalating in Nigeria. And he actually said some things that actually reflects the situational report on the ground in Nigeria. So families, let's watch this video.
President Trump continues to ramp up calls for Nigeria to do more to protect Christians in that country. Let's take a closer look at the roots of religious tension there. The country split into 3 sections, the north largely Muslim and at least partially governed by Sharia law. The middle belt, which is mixed, and the heavily Christian south. Much of the violence against Christians that we've been hearing about takes place in the northeast region of the country at the hands of jihadist groups like Boko Haram, as well as Fulani militias in the central belt and elsewhere. According to the International Society for Civil Liberties and the Rule of Law, more than 7,000 Christians have been killed in Nigeria this year alone. Some 125,000 in the last 16 years, and more than 19,000 churches burned. So let's bring in Congressman Riley Moore, one of the first lawmakers to bring this to national attention. Good to have you on Fox News Sunday.
Shannon, thanks for having me on.
So I know the president has tapped you and Congressman Tom Cole to look into this. Can you tell us anything about how you'll investigate and what options you may give to the president, or what plans he should have for handling this?
Yes, we've already started that investigation, and it's the House Appropriations Committee, and we're working with the other relevant stakeholders in Congress, including the House Foreign Affairs Committee, also working with leadership and their staff as well, to present findings to the president here as soon as we can. And once we have some real ground truth from our perspective, obviously we've been working with the State Department, the NSC as well, and the White House staff, and we're in constant coordination and communication on this issue. But we're going to get to the bottom of this, and obviously the map that you just showed really highlights the tragedy that's going on there, how horrific this is, these killings of these Christians, our brothers and sisters in Christ. But we, and as President Trump has stated, we're going to stop this.
Well, he's talked about potentially boots on the ground there, going in guns a-blazing. But I want to read something from Nigeria's president. He says the characterization of Nigeria as religiously intolerant doesn't reflect our national reality. Religious freedom and tolerance have been a core tenet of our collective identity and shall always remain so. Nigeria opposes religious persecution and does not encourage it. He says the picture we're getting here is not accurate.
You know, unfortunately, that is completely false. I mean, there are states in Nigeria that have blasphemy laws, people who are facing the death penalty right now for blasphemy against Islam. There's a person currently right now who's held in prison for defending himself from attack from a Muslim militant from the Fulani tribe. He defended himself, and he's facing the death penalty. So, no, there's serious persecution happening in Nigeria. I know the president, Tinubu, is in a difficult position in trying to protect his interests there in that country, but they are complicit in this to one degree or another with statements like this.
So the New York Times says it's not just Christians. They say attacks on Muslims in the country often receive far less attention within Nigeria and globally, even though they have also been killed by the tens of thousands, with groups like Boko Haram preying on Muslim communities. So is it fair to say that there are other religious minorities, depending on which section of the country, and you're a minority in that particular section of the country, that they are at threat as well?
Look, there are Muslims that are being killed here, but the deaths that we have been able to garner from the facts on the ground, it's 5 to 1. 5 to 1 Christians versus other minorities, other religious affiliations in that country. Now, there are Shia Muslims there. These terrorists are Sunnis, Salafists, who are doing these attacks. So, of course, the Shias are going to also be targeted in this. But it is 5 to 1 Christians who are being killed in Nigeria.
What can the U.S. do quickly? What should we do? Do we have a role in something that seems to be an internal dispute in a different sovereign country?
I think we absolutely do. Look, we're a Christian nation and a nation that believes in values and virtues of standing up for people who are being persecuted. That designation the president just did, a country of particular concern, unlocks 15 different levers that the president can use against that country, sanctions being one of them, withholding development dollars, restricting financing from international institutions. So there's a lot that could be done there. But the president has put all options on the table, including military kinetic action.
Okay, please keep us updated. We appreciate it as you get to the details on this.
Thanks.
You could actually see from the video that, the congressman actually gave the situational report of what is going on in Nigeria. I can post a lot of videos for you. I actually posted a video on my WhatsApp account. I couldn't even post it on our Telegram channel to show you the level of God that was manifested in that video. Ladies and gentlemen, some realities can actually break your heart. But I can guarantee you, this particular reality that has been going down so lately, it's actually going to crush the heart, not even break it completely. We just received a video today of the ISIS headquarters, probably in Syria. They are now giving a go-ahead to Muslims in Africa that now they should start a complete campaign of massacre of the Christian population across Africa, not just the country. They said they should grab their holy knife and make sure they complete the job. Now, there has been a lot of things going on in Nigeria, and a lot of things have been swept under the carpet. There's no lies about that, right? Propagandas are more vicious in Nigeria. Like, the truth don't come out. It's what they want you to see that you see, just like all the mainstream media does. Everywhere, they only speak about the interest of the deep state. That is what every mainstream media is for. Actually, as a Nigerian, I love my country, and I'm never going to deviate from the interests of my country, right? Nationality comes first, patriotism comes first, but I'm equally loyal to Africa, okay? And it's my responsibility to be patriotic to the continent of Africa. That's why you see that anything that concerns our brothers somewhere else, in Sudan, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in DRC, we are all in it together, okay? And to our brothers in the Caribbean, our condolences, to those in Haiti, Jamaica, that actually went through the Hurricane Melissa. We actually say our heart is with you and we love you. We just want to say to those that actually lost the battle, rest in peace to them. And to some that were impacted some way, somehow, may God find a way to, in His infinite mercy, to bless you. Okay? God bless you. That's all I can say. So let's go back to the information of Nigeria. Okay? So there has been so many escalation in Nigeria. Even a local government chairman today, he actually came out and said he is no longer interested in, representing his local government. That, there was a baby right in front of him. The baby has just been butchered. And they called the military. According to what he said the military said that they were not given, the order has not been given for them to engage the jihadists. But in all of this, in everything that has been going on, this whole nonchalance towards this escalation that has actually beyond the expectation of so many people, the escalation has now gone to a whole new phase. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a saying in Nigeria: if he touch you, he go touch everybody. Yes. Now everybody is feeling it. Guess what happened? The convoy of a Nigerian military general, a brigadier general, General Uba by name, okay? He was actually moving in Borno State. He was ambushed by the Islamic State in West African province. Now, let's get the story clear. Why was he ambushed by the Islamic State in West African province? We do know that the Islamic State in West African province has always attacked the Nigerian security architecture. But after the conflict between the Islamic State and the Boko Haram, the Islamic State actually came out on social media through their platforms, and they said they discovered that the Nigerian government has been, targeting them specifically without giving equal response to the Boko Haram. A lot of people gave their opinion about it, but they said they were going to respond. Ladies and gentlemen, somehow, some way, they knew the plan of this general, that it was going to be on the road. How they knew, we don't know. But in a country where repentant Boko Haram, who are loyal to their generals, are being recruited into the Nigerian army, anything is possible. So we found out that his convoy was, ambushed, and immediately 2 soldiers and 2 civilian joint task force were neutralized by the ISWAP. And after they were neutralized, there was a propaganda that started sweeping out there. Some people said he fell on the line of contact. Some people said he made it alive. The Nigerian Defense Headquarters said he came back to the barracks. Goodness. After they said he walked back to the barracks himself, right? I think a lot of people said the Nigerian military lied, okay? I don't see it as a lie. He made a video, right? He made a video that he is on his way to the barracks, that he can walk by himself to the barracks. After some time, he made another video where he said that where he is safe. Actually, he might have said that he's losing blood because he was shot on his legs. But I think he just tried to calm the situation. This is a brigadier general. These are decades of experience right there. This man earned his position through experience, through blood, sweat, and tears. These are people that understand the calculus of combat perfectly. So I think he was trying to calm the situation. So from the base, they deployed an helicopter to go find him. And I think they deployed some ground units. Now, they had a WhatsApp message. So he was telling them about the situation. That, he's with his cap, he's somewhere where he said the helicopter should hover around. And when they get to his location and he finds them, he's going to wave his cap in the air. That should the helicopter come around, they are going to see him. Ladies and gentlemen, the last thing the Brigadier General Uba said was that he said his battery is now 31%. And from that moment forward, we lost contact with him. Now, what I'm not sure of is if the Nigerian army said he made it back to the camp after this comment or before this WhatsApp message. But one thing we actually found out at the end of the day was that today, ISWAP actually made a statement where the general of the Nigerian army is seated on the ground. He was, oh man. They actually gave a statement that they executed him. You see, this is a slap on the entire nation. This is a big message. I don't know if a lot of people can get it. That is a brigadier general right there. I don't know what to say, actually. I don't know. I don't want to judge anyone. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know if there was an effort, if there was an intentional effort to rescue him. But this just shows you the situation of this country, to be honest with you. So like I said, whatever you see Riley Moore saying right there, there is a heavy element of truth to it. And you know the funny thing? Andre holds you one thing, and that is the truth. And I'm going to tell you, everything that was said right there in that video was actually true. We do know that the United States have their own interests. We don't want an invasion. We don't want an invasion. We don't want a complete compromise. But the truth is, the situation of Nigeria right now is very, very desperate. Now, when the situation is desperate, it is the responsibility of the leadership to take decisive action. Like, okay, do you want the citizens to become heavily militarized? If the president says now we want 10 million combat-ready Nigerian youths, I'm telling you, I can guarantee you we are ready to move. We are ready. Do you know how many Nigerians? There are over 300 million Nigerians. 10 million is something that that is if the leadership is honest. But look at the situation of this general right here. That is the Nigerian general, a brigadier general in the Nigerian army. There are a lot of things that have been flying. Different people talking about sabotage. You have terrorist sympathizers everywhere. But, you know, this is just the situation of Nigeria, my country, to be faithfully and honest. But we'll continue to serve this country with all our strength and defend its unity. But did Donald Trump really lie when he said that now disgraced country? Ladies and gentlemen, with this situation, this is a complete failure of the state. So the question is Nigeria a disgraced country or not? You can drop your opinion in the comment section below. It's your boy 7200 signing out and said, but before I go, Andre will always hold you the truth. That is why I'm here. I continue to represent. It's your humble presenter, Andre72. Thanks for watching, and God bless you.